Thanks, David, and good morning, everybody. The thing I want to do today is spend a little bit of time talking about detecting cyber attacks as they happen. Now, just saying that, doesn't it seem logical? Like, shouldn't we be doing that? Because when you think about what's happened over the last 15 months, all the major headlines, breaches in retail, healthcare, finance, we've had over 1 billion personal records exposed, just in 2014 alone. And if we talk about the Carbon attack against over 100 banks, they stole over $1 billion. And experts still don't know whether or not it's an attack that's still running on banks. People don't know if they can be confident in finding it in its active phases. That is a problem. This is actually an ongoing problem that we find every day in our organizations. Now, these companies and these businesses, they spend money on security. They spend money on the Great Prevention Wall. Gartner forecasts that in this year, organizations will spend over $17 billion on more Great Prevention Wall machines. That will probably continue to produce the exact same results that we saw in the headlines of 2014. Because it's a problem for yesterday's attack, not for the modern cyber attack. Now, when somebody finds out that their key assets are found in the wild, you get the dreaded call from a 3-letter agency saying, we found a trove of your data in this really bad place. Can you explain how you do it? Well, organizations call in the human forensics and cleanup team. They call in a group of very expensive, very talented experts to reconstruct the crime. They try to figure out how, when, where they broke in. They try to clean it up and leave you healthier as an organization than when they found you. But it still doesn't do anything about the irreparable damage that's happened. Now, between the Great Wall of Prevention machines and this human cleanup team, which is pretty hard to find and pretty expensive, there is a big gap, a blind spot through which you can drive, pick your favorite big object. Because these attacks didn't happen at 2:21 a.m. last night when no one was paying attention. They happened between October and December, as in the case of Target. This is like Ocean's 11. It's the long con. And thanks for the Passcode for putting out an article yesterday about what things we could learn from Ocean's 11 on this topic. It's the attacker operating in plain sight, doing things that are just covert enough that you don't notice them. But if you pay close enough attention to their behavior and you string these things together, you actually can piece together the long con. You can figure out what he's doing. You can figure out where he's going. And you can prevent that loss, or at least mitigate it. And that's what I want to talk about. This is where we can apply technology like the security research that we have in depth already with something new, data science, to create machine learning algorithms that allow us to put intelligence deep inside a network. Intelligence like what you'd find in the skill set of those best people that work in the human cleanup and forensic team. But they're running in software, so they can run 24/7. And all of that ability that comes from the software empowers everybody that works in a security operations team. So they can find the attacks that are happening in real time. This is pretty cool stuff. This is going to end up getting a label. We always have to put labels on things. It'll probably have an acronym too. Today, the thing people are calling this, as it's developing, evolving, is automated breach detection. And it uses this technology deep inside a network to empower these teams, and rather than talking more about what it is, what I'd like to do is show you an example of it. So what I'm going to show you is the interface for a Vectra X series platform that's running inside of a small business. It's not a big business like some of the headlines we've seen. The cool thing is that this works for any size organization, regardless of how many people they can hire or how much money they have to spend. And what it's showing us is, where do you need to be worried? There are hundreds of endpoints in this organization, and they're probably experiencing thousands of discrete security alerts, little things, little blips saying there was a file downloaded that may have a malicious exploit in it, or something similar. Somebody went to a bad website. These thousands of discrete things overwhelm security teams all the time. We've seen this in the press a lot over the last year and a half. But what we've done here is we correlate all that information over time, and we correlate it back to the hosts that are under attack, regardless of what they are. Could be an iPhone, could be a tablet, could be a supercomputer for all we know. But it's where the action is. And so simply, what I'm going to do is show you that in 2 clicks, you can get to all the information you want to know about an attack in progress. 2 clicks. Now the first step is not even click, it's a hover. So hover over the dot that's all the way to the right on this threat certainty index where we're scoring hosts that are under attack based on threat on the y-axis and certainty on the x-axis. And you get a host with a 9999 and those green circles there. We get a little bit of information, the host name, it's named Bob. We get its last known IP address, because that could change every day that it comes into the office. And we see the last 5 detections. Click on the host name Bob, and it takes you into a deeper view of what's going on. We get an infographic at the top that tells us some pretty vital information. This is job 1, this host. The reason it's job 1 is we've seen command and control behavior, we've seen reconnaissance behavior, and we started to see exfiltration behavior. We're not in the prevention mode anymore. We're not stopping loss. We're actually now mitigating loss. And you might think, hey, this is, is this really still helping me? Well, think about Target. If 4,000 credit cards were stolen, not 4 million, how big of a headline would it have been? Would a CEO have lost his job? Would American people be as concerned? They'd be concerned, but they wouldn't be as freaked out as 40 million. Well, let's scroll down and take a look. There's a few things I want to click into here to show you an example of what can happen if you simply pay attention to the behavior deep inside a network using this analyst that's running a software running 24/7. We could see some command and control activity, recon, and exfil. The first command and control activity I want to take a look at is this thing we call a hidden HTTPS tunnel. The first thing that you probably think of is, it's HTTPS. The attacker is encrypting his commands to the host that's infected with SSL. So you're probably thinking, how's this guy figuring out that this is command and control behavior? We don't have to see the contents of the packet in order to figure this out. That's a cool thing about using this kind of technology. You don't have to pry to protect. So you don't have to violate people's personal privacy. You want to detect command and control behavior when there's communication between an internal IP address and an external one? If there's a long silence and the thing outside breaks it, somebody on the outside is controlling the conversation. Things like that. It's that simple. Now, as we look back to the sequence here and we take a look at what progressed next, this host that's been infected, well, it started looking around to build a lay of the land. Now, think about it. An attacker rarely lands his malware on a host that's got the key assets he wants to steal. It's sort of like bringing a blind person into a room and leaving him alone and saying, find the exit. Right? You take out your cane, and you probe around, and you find the walls, and you try a few hallways, and you ultimately get to the door you want. It's what the attacker's doing. He knows the IP address and subnet mask of the host he's infected. He's probing around, what else is on this subnet? What other subnets are in use? And he's hitting some IP addresses never installed. 2 things should really set off alarm bells, right? First, computers don't talk to IP addresses. They talk to host names. DNS resolves that. And second, why would you ever talk to an IP address I've never assigned if you're supposed to talk to host names? So again, paying attention to what's happening inside a network with analyst capability running in software 24/7 allows you to see this in real time. So going back to the list, the other thing I want to look at is there was some other command and control behavior of a different kind. As this attacker probably got into an organization, didn't know what he found. Maybe it was really juicy. Maybe he thought, I need to go really covert. He shifted his command and control behavior to the onion router. The onion router is actually used for a lot of good purposes. People who are in war zones or in unfriendly territory will use this to protect their identity, remain anonymous through the internet, to report incidents out to the general public and the rest of the world. It's also used for bad. Attackers will use it for the same benefit. They'll just try to stay anonymous and to hide their identity and their path through the internet. And that's what this guy's doing. Actually, when I clicked in and researched this more, the attacker, the first site he was bouncing his communication through was an internet commerce site in Germany. So this is the things that they do to hide their identity. Now, the last thing I want to point out is what you can see if you pay attention, running an analyst in the form of software, in terms of exfiltration. This is something we call data smuggler. If you want to know my analogy on this is it's like when the FBI tries to figure out if you're laundering money. You somehow had $11 billion in 5 accounts in the United States, and it's all gone. But you now have $11 billion in the Cayman Islands. There's an infected host that's gotten data of some amount from many hosts inside the network, and it's sent an equal amount to some host on the outside, right? So this is, the host has been infected. It's being used as a waypoint, sort of like in the case of Target. It's collecting data from point-of-sale terminals, and it's sending it to a server on the outside. but this was all detected in real time. It's by paying attention in real time with software that has the same skills that an analyst would have trying to reconstruct the crime in cleanup mode. So a couple things I want to show you before I close out here is on this threat certainty index, there are other hosts that you may want to look at. There's examples of a botnet attack that turned virulent. Some attacker loaded Bitcoin mining software and went undetected for a while. And he said, ooh, what else can I get away with? And he started performing reconnaissance. And then there's some hosts that may not score very high on certainty, but high in threat, and they can often indicate an upcoming incident. So paying attention to what's on this is a great way to look into the full range of what the attacker's been doing, get a sense of where he's been and where he's going. So it's not only detecting in real time, but helps you get a sense of how to predict what will happen next. So this use of technology is something that we call security. So thank you very much.